Guess who's back? Pittsburgh Steelers fans! Welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is behind the steel curtain editor, Dave Schofield, coming at you once again on Tuesday. It's a little after 9 p.m. I'm sorry I'm a little late, but apparently my extended warranty on my car was about to expire and I needed to act right away. No, I'm just messing. But with me, as always, is my big brother, Rich. Rich, how's it going?
It is going just wonderfully. I missed my Steeler family last week, although I watched the show that went on in our absence anyway, sort of, as it bounced in and out with my lousy connection that we had on vacation.
Yes. So if you missed us last week, you missed us. We weren't here last week. We had the let's see, who was it? It was Retro Scho and oh, come on, what was it?
Who was with him?
It was Mark Davison.
Oh, that was Aussie Scho and Retro Scho.
Yes, because that was someone in the live chat came up with that. I can't remember. You told me who it was. I don't remember who it was to give him a shout out.
I don't remember who it was.
I'm sure they'll remind us. But that's who filled in while we were away on vacation. I felt like we were in the Stone Ages. You know, we're in a house. It was our 19th time going to the same house, but no Wi-Fi, very limited cell signal because we were we were basically on the dunes of the beach. That's where we were. Yeah. I had two places in the house I could get cell signal. Well, one place in the house and the other was the deck. So I was just trying to get good enough signal to, work on stuff for the website. I tried to catch as much of the show last week. I'm still behind on my podcast. I'm trying to catch up. But it's good to be back. Does it feel right to be back here and talking again finally?
Oh yeah, of course it does.
Yeah.
I really missed not doing this last week. We're so used to doing this every Tuesday night that when we missed last Tuesday, it was kind of weird.
Yes, it was. But I will tell you, it's not that we missed each other because we just spent a week together, but it was that we missed doing this with you all. That's really what it is.
That's correct. And actually, I see somebody out there in the live chat that I got to give a shout out. Okay. And that would be George Teston. George Teston's out there in the live chat. He picked up on last week when I first logged in to the show. I was logged in under one of my old logins for YouTube, but I made a comment that, Aussie Scho was trying to steal one of my lines. He caught on that it was me.
He
kind of incognito there. Yep. George Teston figured out it was me. And then I realized I had, I was like, oh, gee whiz, nobody will know who I am. So I had to try to switch out so that, it showed up as Big Bro Scho.
So it showed up. That's the right name. Yeah. Yeah. I jumped in. I commented on something. I think I said go Lions because they were talking about various other divisions, who the other strong divisions are. I mean, I'm sorry. Bottom line is it's the AFC North and it's the NFC West. Those are the two best divisions in football.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
Right now.
Yep. So
I don't think you can argue that.
No, but it's funny because I jumped in and I said, go Lions. Honestly, I do cheer for the Lions unless they're playing the Steelers. And like you say, sometimes it's almost like a pity cheer because, they've been so bad for so long and everything. But for some reason, I've always cheered for them.
And they did have one of my all-time favorite players. In my opinion, the league's best rusher ever.
And Barry Sanders.
Sanders.
The first game I took my father to at Heinz Field, we sat and I'm always in the visitor's end, but we were down there and got to see Megatron up close. And I tell you what, man, that guy was a physical specimen. Can I tell a quick story about him real quick? A quick story real quick, which means
what if I say no?
So, but I coached high school football and I was a teacher. And during that time I had one of my players. I never coached him directly, but
all right, the story's already too long.
Just listen. But I had him in class, and I also had him in one of the clubs that I ran at school. Knew him well, knew his family well. He went on, and he was a walk-on at Georgia Tech as a safety. And his very first practice when he went out there after, it was Rudy style. He was one of a couple kids that made the team. And his first practice with the team out there, they put him out there and they said, you got the slot. You got the slot. Guess who's lined up in the slot? One Charles Johnson. His very first snap ever of a practice in college football, he had to line up across from Megatron. So I always thought that was a pretty cool story. So, but hey, we're here. Forget the Lions. Let's talk about the Steelers.
Steelers.
We're 1 week closer. We don't know exactly when training camp is starting. We know when the first padded practice is. We know that's going to be July 28th. The Steelers are allowed to start training camp the 21st. I'm going to say this. If they were in Latrobe, they would have to announce when they were reporting. But they're in Pittsburgh, so I don't think they're really announcing. I think they're going to start meeting when they're allowed to, right around the 21st. We just don't know. Remember last year, they kind of had a ramp-up period where they got together as a team the first time, and they did some workouts, and then they did some other drills and a lot of meetings and stuff. I'm wondering if that first padded practice on the 28th is after a ramp-up period. We don't know exactly when they're going to report because they haven't said that, but I think they'll be meeting together as a team before that. Do you think that's probably a good bet?
Probably a good bet. I liked what you talked about, that ramp-up period. It jogged something in my memory from things that went on in our shows during this time last year. Remember all those folks that said we weren't going to make it past week 4 of the season, and it would get shut down? Guess what? It wasn't the prettiest, but the NFL made it through.
They made it through. Yeah, the Steelers kind of got screwed a couple times along the way, but you know what? It was still better than not having a season. It really was.
It was.
So, but notice those people that come out and say those kind of things, when those things don't happen, they kind of disappear.
Yeah, they do. They're kind of quiet then.
Yeah. When people want to say crazy things like, oh my goodness, the Steelers, what a mistake when they let Javon Hargrave go and they didn't add another player at that position, really, because Chris Wormley wasn't really a nose tackle. They have no nose tackle on this team. What are they going to do? Next thing you know, Tyson Alualu's tearing up, and those people gone. They're not around.
That's right.
to talk about it. So, but here's what we're going to talk about tonight. There's been some news recently in the last couple of days. We've had some former Steelers who spent time other places announce their retirements. One was on Sunday, was one Anthony Chickillo. Michael Beck was extremely happy to hear about his retirement because he was afraid that's who the Steelers were going to sign for outside linebacker depth. So that kind of made him breathe a sigh of relief. I thought that was kind of funny. The other one was one today, and it's kind of sad how it's happy, but it's sad. It's one of my favorite Steelers. It really is. I loved this guy, and I was pulling for him. But today was through on his Instagram. He didn't actually say the word retirement, but it was confirmed later that that's what he meant. Is that one Roosevelt Nix is retiring from the NFL? Were you a Rosie Nix fan like I was a Rosie Nix fan? I wanted a Rosie Nix jersey, man.
I was a Rosie Nix fan. I was. And if you do recall, wasn't he the person when we were at the Dilly Dilly game that blocked the punt?
I do believe that would be correct. I'm pretty sure that was him. But just his story. He went to Kent State as a defensive end, basically playing the defensive line. And you look at him and how he's built, you're like, that dude, he wasn't tall enough or anything to,
right.
He didn't have the right build to play that position in the NFL. So what did he do to make an NFL career? He was willing to play wherever they'd play him. So he gets signed by the Atlanta Falcons after he doesn't get drafted. He ends up there. They switch him to fullback. And they're on Hard Knocks that year, which I've never watched an episode, just so you know. But apparently he was the first player cut on Hard Knocks, that he was cut very early in the process. And that's what Brian Anthony Davis knew him for. That was his claim to fame there. But he didn't play at all that first year. That was 2014, I do believe. And then in the offseason, the Steelers signed him to a futures contract. And he's coming into the Steelers as the Steelers already had a fullback. They had Will Johnson. So you're like, okay, they thought maybe he would be a linebacker. Nope, they put him back to fullback. And the dude just went out there on special teams and made plays. And he got the Steelers to keep 2 fullbacks that year. That's crazy. The Steelers kept 2 fullbacks because Roosevelt Nix did so much on special teams to make his spot on that team. Then he was the fullback the next year, Pro Bowler in 2017 as a fullback. That's what you call doing whatever you had to do, working hard, having the right attitude to live your dream and play in the NFL. In 2019, I know I'm going off a little soliloquy of a tribute to Roosevelt Nix. He was the Steelers special teams captain.
Yes, he was.
And unfortunately, he only got to play 3 games as a captain. He got injured in week 1. He was out for 5 weeks. He came back for 2 weeks, got re-injured, put on IR. Him and Ryan Switzer were both designated to return, started practicing to come back. They were eligible to come back for the playoffs, and then the Steelers didn't make the playoffs. So that's how he finished his Steelers career. He went to Indy last year, didn't make the team, was out of football. I think the knee injury was just too significant for him to be able to do what he needed to do. It's just how some of those things work sometimes. We see that with what happened with David DeCastro, where that's right. What ends up happening sometimes. But that was the career of Roosevelt Nix. Man, that guy. He had 2 career touchdowns. Did you know that?
Not sure that I knew that.
I remember the one, his receiving touchdown. They were both in 2017. It was against the Ravens. And the way that Ben threw the ball, you almost thought it was going to be intercepted. And he just caught it and landed on the defender flat on his back with the ball between him and the defender, and then just got up and spiked it. It was great. He was a beast. I love that guy. I remember him, a game I was at, it was a tackle. It was right after Renegade. They were playing the Raiders. I'm pretty sure it was right after Renegade. It might not have been. I think it was. And he goes down and makes a tackle deep on the kickoff and doesn't even realize he knocked the ball out. And he comes up celebrating while everyone else is diving for the ball. So he was just a guy that was willing to put it all out there.
Yep. So just he was. So
yep. I would have liked to see him get more catches or more touches.
I would have, but if you asked Roosevelt Nix, say, would you have thought you'd have had the NFL career you did? Well, I bet you he'd say, he was fortunate.
Say, hey, you're only going to get to play 5 years, but you'll be a Pro Bowler 1 year in there. You know what? He'd probably be like, sign me up. I'll take it now. Yeah. So good for him. Thank you, Roosevelt Nix, for your service for the Pittsburgh Steelers, only team you ever played for in the regular season. That's how you'll go down. You will always be a Pittsburgh Steeler. So with that, we're actually going to talk some special teams tonight. And we're going to talk about something that Roosevelt Nix was in 2019, and that was the special teams captain for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, for those of you that might not know, he was the captain in 2019. Rich, do you know this? Who was the special teams captain in 2020?
2020 was Jordan Dangerfield.
Jordan Dangerfield, that is correct. He was the up man for the punts. That's the guy that basically directs everything there. And he was the special teams captain. He is not currently on any NFL roster, but he's not on the Steelers roster. So guess what? They have a vacancy for special teams captain. So what we're going to do, you guys have been around for several weeks with us. We're doing a top 5 again. We went through and we picked our top 5 choices for the Steelers special teams captain for 2021. Sound good?
Oh, yes, sir. I am prepared.
I do want to tell you something.
No.
Careful. I'm not going to say any names or anything else.
Okay, don't ruin
I'm
anything.
just going to say that this is not a role that the Steelers always fill.
Oh, you ruined it.
What?
You ruined it.
Was that your number 5?
Number 5. None.
Yes, there you go. I didn't do that, but I love that. That's a great one.
And you ruined it.
Okay. No, I didn't ruin it. What?
None.
Why? What? Do you know what years under Mike Tomlin? Do you know what years they didn't have a special teams captain?
I can go back a ways. 2017, there was not a special teams captain.
That is correct.
2012 and 2013, there was not a special teams captain.
That is correct.
That's all the further I went back.
That's as far back in the Mike Tomlin era where they did not have one.
Right.
They did have one, at least one, since 2007. There was actually 2 seasons in there where they had 2.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what seasons those were? Ooh. Good
20,
trivia. That's not even the preview.
2014 was one of them.
That is correct.
With Robert Golden and Sean Sweesum.
That is correct. I'd be really surprised if you got the other one.
I don't have the other one written down here.
The other one was Mike Tomlin's first year. In 2007, it was James Harrison.
Oh, yes, I did see this.
And Clint Krewalt.
That's right.
Is it Krewalt or Krywalt? I might have said it.
Yeah.
It's one of those. Yes. So the Steelers, they've done it. They've not had one. So that's your number 5. I almost did that for number 5. I love that.
None.
That they're just not going to do it.
Because I'm going out there, kind of make these lists some kind of probabilities.
Yep.
And I think there could be a probability somewhere that they just don't do a special teams test.
Absolutely. I agree with you. That is a good one. And I was going to mention that somewhere along the way. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm going to do mine.
Okay.
My number 5.
Yes.
Okay, I went back and I also looked at who played a lot of special teams last year.
Yes, I did that as well.
Well, the problem is the top 2 people who played the most special team snaps for the Steelers last year are no longer on the team. One was last year's captain, Jordan Dangerfield, who is a free agent if they really needed someone.
Who played 65% of the special team snaps.
64.69, 295 snaps. You are correct. And the other one, not far behind, with 62.72%, was
linebacker Ola Adeniyi.
He was the next one. Now, the third one is one that I expect to not play nearly as much special teams this year, which was Alex Highsmith.
Yep, that's right. Yes.
For my number 5, I'm going with the player that played the 4th most amount of special team snaps last year, because I look for him to still play special team snaps as long as he makes the team. And I don't see him he could possibly, but I don't see him being a guy that moves into a bigger role to where they wouldn't want to play him on special teams. So I'm going there based strictly off of his snap count.
I know where you're
last
going.
year. Jeff Hartman's favorite, Justin Lane. That's who my number 5 is, because he's the gunner on special teams. He played a lot of snaps. If he wants to step up into a leadership role, that's someone that they could assign.
Yep.
Okay.
Totally.
Does that make sense?
Totally get it.
All right. So that's my number 5, because I'll tell you now, players who play more on defense or offense, I have a tendency to say that I don't think they're going to necessarily be the special teams captain, because they might decrease their special team snaps. So we'll have to see. This is all kind of fun projection. Do you want to go ahead with number 4?
Oh, sure. All right, number 4. Don't ask me why I went this route. He played a decent number of snaps. This is not typically the type of person the Steelers would probably go to, but it just wouldn't surprise me if they went. And I said number 4 was Ray
McLeod. Ray McLeod, the return guy. That's him. Okay, I can see that. That's a pretty good one. Yeah, because especially if he returns punts, I hope he's returning punts rather than Deontay Johnson. I hope he's the guy back there. I even did as one of my Jeff Hartman and I are switching back and forth in our 30 scenarios in 30 days. My one scenario was the Steelers scoring a special teams touchdown, which most of that would lie on Ray McLeod. Now, you could get a special teams touchdown other ways. In fact, recent retiree Anthony Chickillo had one. He had the last non-punt or kickoff return touchdown for the Steelers in the special teams, and that was where he recovered a blocked punt. The first touchdown of the season in 2017, when Tyler Matakevich blocked the punt and Anthony Chickillo fell on it for a touchdown. But I still think that would fall more on Ray Ray. I could see Ray McLeod. Hey, he's beyond his rookie deal. He was back on a 1-year deal. So I could see him where he could kind of step up and kind of lead that unit. That's a good one.
That was my other reason for him, because he's been in the league for several years and could potentially take on that type of leadership role.
Exactly. I completely see that.
All right, who'd you go with as your 4?
My number 4, I went with the other side of the ball from what you normally think of. I thought of who's a guy, well, no, the same side you just went with.
Mm-hmm.
But I went with another person who the Steelers, who makes a little bit of a name for himself on special teams. And saying that he's not, definitely once again, doesn't look like he's going to be called on to be the guy in the running game. I went with the special teams contributions of one Benny Snell Jr.
I considered, I will tell you, he is not on my list, but I considered him for my list because, again, he played a decent percentage of special team snaps last year.
Yes, he did. And he does a nice job on special teams. So that's why I thought maybe someone like that. Like, honestly, I was kind of torn between him and Jalen Samuels. And I just thought Snell was more of a better lock to make the team. And he had more special team snaps. So that's why I went with him. So very interesting. Very interesting. Anything you want to say about that? Or are you ready to roll on to number 3?
No, I couldn't argue that one. As I said, I didn't put him on my list. He wasn't consideration because of the number of special team snaps he plays. And again, guy that's been around the team and has played special teams for a couple years. So
yeah.
Now I'm ready. Now we can move on to number 3.
Okay. Let's go to number 3.
All right. So at number 3, I'm going to go back to the well.
Okay.
Okay. To the only person I can go back to the well and take.
Okay.
I'm going to go with a former special teams captain who is on the roster, and that would be one Chris Boswell.
Chris Boswell. He's the only one on the roster that has done this before. So I could totally see that. Boswell was the captain in 2018.
Correct.
And the only problem with that is we know
that
what happened.
That was the year he sucked.
Yeah. Oh, and that's
so.
Well, thank you, Jordan Dangerfield, for breaking the curse, because there wasn't one. They didn't have a special teams captain in 2017. 2018, Boswell didn't kick well, was hurt. 2019, Roosevelt Nix only played in 3 games. Thank you, Jordan Dangerfield, for actually playing a full season and not missing significant time. Right?
Yeah. Right.
So, but no, I could totally see that. Boswell would be a good choice. He had a very solid year last year. I'm on board with that one.
I would guess that Boswell would ask not to be.
I wouldn't be surprised,
because we all know how kind of superstitious kind of thing kickers can get. Like, kickers in football are like baseball players. They're the guys, got to wear the same socks, got to do, everything.
I don't think that Boswell is that way as much as other kickers are. He, what the best thing he has going for him now, and that's the thing. That's what surprised me, that he continued to struggle in 2018. That it made sense that it was an injury. That dude's got amnesia. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, he misses a kick. He doesn't let that get to him beyond there. And I still say 2018, Boswell struggling is the only reason Jordan Berry kept his job that year, because he was not good. But the last thing they wanted to do was change the holder on a place kicker that had just come off the Pro Bowl and was struggling. So just one of those things. So that was a good choice. You ready for my number 3?
Yes, bring it.
My number 3 is one Ray McLeod. I thought that was a good choice that you said at number 4, that I could see Ray as the return guy, being someone, and the whole reason I put him at number 3 ahead of the other 2 that I had of Benny Snell and Justin Lane is because he is a guy that, was brought. he would have been he would have been a restricted free agent this year, but they didn't offer him a tender. Instead, they brought him back. So he does have a little bit more. I mean, I think he's the same years in the league as Jalen Samuels, but with being that guy that's on that, he's not on his rookie deal anymore officially. So it makes it feel like it's someone that's been around a little bit longer. I don't know if he's a big leadership guy in the locker room. That's what we don't know when it comes to special teams guys.
Exactly.
We don't know if they're leadership guys or not. So we're just basing it off of guys that we could see that it wouldn't shock us of what they were to do. But yeah, I liked your choice of Ray McCloud.
And I like your choice of Ray McCloud.
I'm going to ask you something though.
Sure.
Did you feel he kind of regressed
faded?
As the season went on? Faded. There you go. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I think he did. I don't know if it was a confidence thing or he was being used more on the field in the passing game and therefore wasn't as focused on the return game. There could be all kinds of reasons why he kind of faded down the stretch. But I don't know. Biggest thing, first thing I want in a returner is I don't care if you can break it for touchdowns all day. If you can't catch it to begin with, what good are you?
Yeah. And I mean, that's why a lot of people didn't like fair catch Ryan Switzer. But you know what? He didn't fumble it.
Yeah.
He didn't fumble it. He didn't. So there's that. But you also didn't have much of a threat there. The thing with Ray, I feel like he started the season with reckless abandon, playing with nothing to lose because he was, because he made the team.
Right.
And it was just, hey, I might as well go out here and take advantage of this opportunity. But
he knew he was just kind of the return guy. So that's what all he was worrying about.
And then the season went on, and I think he did actually put one on the ground at some point. And I can't remember exactly what game it was. I didn't look it up. But it almost was a reminder of, rather than go out and showing what you can do to show that I deserve this, once he had it, it was almost like, okay, now don't screw it up. Like he almost, like that mentality got to him. Yeah. I don't know if it really did or not. It could have just been their change in philosophy with stuff. But all season, it just felt like he was ready to break one. And didn't he break one really far? But then didn't make it the whole. I know that one. I know he had a run.
Yeah, I think so.
In the offense, where he ran it really far, but then couldn't quite get it into the touchdown zone. Kreese says he might have dropped two of them. Yeah, that might have been it as well. But it was one of those things where it just kind of seemed like everything changed. I want to see 2021 being kind of a reset. Get Ray back there and back to doing stuff how we started last season. Doesn't that sound good?
Yes.
All right. Well,
how it should be.
Exactly. So there's our top three. We're going to go ahead and take a break now. And that way we can come back and do our last two picks of who we think is our best candidates to be the Steelers special team captains. Because I have some other people I want to talk about that I considered and then tell you why I didn't consider them. Yep. Or who knows? Maybe you listed and then I'll tell you why I didn't. We'll have some things like that. We'll might even have some time for some questions, and then we'll do our big question at the end. So make sure if you are listening in audio form, go ahead and click on over to part 2. And if you're here on YouTube or Facebook, stick around. We'll be right back. And we are back, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, with part 2 of the Scho Bro Show. I am behind the steel curtain editor Dave Schofield. With me, as always, my big brother Rich. Rich, you still doing good? Woo! Woo!
Yeah, doing good.
Hey, I almost busted out your line in an article this week on Sunday, but I didn't.
Which line?
The line that we finish our show with.
Oh, so yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, but I didn't.
That's my line.
Thing. Well, because the article was, in case you all are wondering, the article I was about was we are so close. We are getting so much closer to where results and actual 2021 data will be what we talk about and not just opinions based off last season. You know what I'm saying? We'll actually know that if Ben Roethlisberger can throw the ball more than 5 yards down the field, like some people claim that he can't. You know, you don't have to look at those crazy narratives. I'm trying to remember where I saw this. I don't know if I saw it on Twitter or if it might have been brought up by someone else from BTSC on the Slack channel. I can't remember. And it was, you know what? I think it was on the Slack channel. I think of it. If Mike Tomlin goes for it on 4th down to start the 4th quarter, and the Steelers come back and win that game, and then get knocked out in the next round, how different is the narrative from the Steelers going forward right now? I mean, do people still feel the same way they do about Ben Roethlisberger, or are people still going to be really down on the Steelers, everything else, or not?
Probably doesn't change much.
I think it would change a lot.
Maybe a little. See, I did not think it would have changed all that much.
Yeah. So it's funny.
They win that game against Cleveland and turn around and lose the next week. You lose a few things, but I don't think you lose a little bit of the negative, but I don't think you gain a whole lot on the positive side.
But I mean, they would have been playing Buffalo in Buffalo. You know what I'm saying? It's just an interesting question. And the thing is, you know, because it would have been like, wow, after all those screw ups, the Steelers still overcame. That would have been the crazy narrative. But it didn't happen, so we might as well not even worry about it. We'll just roll on. So we are talking about Steelers special teams captains. We are celebrating the career of one Roosevelt Nix, who announced. Roosevelt Nix. I want to make sure I didn't add a T to the end of that. Who announced his retirement today on Tuesday, and he was the Steelers special teams captain back in 2019. I almost said 18, but it was 19. So we're talking about after. You know, Jordan Dangerfield was the captain in 2020. He's not on the team. Who could be the Steelers special teams captain? Rich started off. I stole his thunder a little bit. I'm sorry, but no, he had a great choice of number 5. He said nobody because they've done it 3 times under Mike Tomlin where they didn't have one. You said nobody. Then you said Ray McLeod.
Correct.
And then you said Chris Boswell. Those were your 3. Okay.
Yeah, I was testing you. I could have given them to you, but I was like,
well, I know you could have. Honestly, I wanted to know if you want to jump in and say them yourself. Because people hear my voice enough. My 3 were number 5 I was at Justin Lane. Number 4, I was Benny Snell Jr. Number 3, I was at Ray McLeod. So let's finish up this list. Rich, who's your number 2?
My number 2 would be Justin Lane.
Justin Lane.
Yeah.
All right.
I put him at number 2 because I could basically see him just basically stepping in towards what Dangerfield was.
Yeah.
You know, just, yeah. He plays a decent amount of the snaps. And just think that, you know, for a lot of the same reasons you said. Yeah. That he's just, you know,
he plays a lot of snaps. He's the gunner. He's going to be out there, and if he's stepping up into any kind of leadership role, he could say that. Okay, all right. So, I can't argue with that. I had him on my list.
Right, I put him all the way to 2.
Yep, good old Lustin Jane. Gotta love it.
Lustin Jane.
So my number 2 has not been mentioned yet. You ready?
Do it.
And this is a little bit out there. Yeah. But I'm going with it. I'm going to own it, and I'm going to live it. Okay. Regardless of what was said today. Okay. I am going with someone who has already played 8 seasons in the NFL. Granted, it was with a lot of different teams. Okay. I think it was 8 seasons. Hold on. Maybe I should count it. Going into his 8th season. Sorry. Going into his 8th season. Okay. And even though he hasn't been with the Steelers very long, and even now he's not going to be much of a – we don't want to see him out there on the field as a defender. We want to see him out there on special teams. I'm talking about the Pokemon King himself. I'm going with Cassius Marsh. Because if Alex Highsmith and Ola Denier as the reserve outside linebackers last year were 2 of the top 3 snaps on special teams, If Marsh makes this team, even if he's the number 4 guy, and if he's got a helmet, he's going to play a lot of special team snaps. People don't realize he's one of the older guys on the Steelers. He is.
Yes, he is.
I mean, because he's 29, and actually his birthday was last week. But he's 29. He was drafted in 2014 in the 4th round by the Seattle Seahawks. A lot of people don't realize that he's been around a long time. Now, if you're wondering what I'm talking about with today, he went on a podcast and said something about he was actually once again saying about with his time with the Patriots that place was no fun to play football. That was kind of what it was. And we know that he's a guy that you don't want to see him on the field on defense if you don't have to. I mean, look at what had to happen for him to play. And I'm not going to say him to play in a playoff game, but Bud Dupree had to go down for the season and Alex Highsmith had to go down. And then all of a sudden he's getting snaps out there in like his 3rd game with the Steelers. But when he was out there on special teams, man, that's just about going out there and playing hard. And he did. So I could see him filling that role and being the Steelers special teams captain. What do you want to say, Rich?
I would say had I not gone with none for number 5, he was going to be number 5.
He was number 5? Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
For most of the same reasons you mentioned. Veteran presence. I expect the linebacker to play a lot of snaps. It will not be Alex Highsmith, and with Ola Denye not currently on the roster,
Yeah.
He's
gone
probably
in
going to be somebody. Right.
Remember when he signed, they called him a special teams ace. I'm like, I don't know that he was an ace. But yeah, he did play special teams.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
So
there we go. I just, some people would be like, man, it's better if he doesn't make the team if they have better options outside linebacker. True. But honestly, you need some guys that just can give you bottom of the depth chart guys that are just out there making plays on special teams. And that guy's crazy enough to go do it. So that's my choice. All right, Rich, are you ready for number 1? So you went nobody, Ray, Boswell, Lustin Jane, number 1 guy.
I'm wondering if we don't have the same number 1 guy.
We'll see.
We're going to see. I went with one DJ Watt.
You went with the DJ Watt because his middle name is with a J, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, which is crazy. He doesn't go with DJ. So you went with Watt because, I mean, last year I was looking at it. Even though he missed however many games, he still was up there with the special team snaps. He played almost half the special team snaps, even after missing. How many games did he miss? I'm going to have to look that up real quick because just think about that. If he only played in 12 games and played almost half the snaps, that means he probably would have played 60% or more of the special team snaps had he been the guy. Okay. So you think 2 Watts might be captains? Because I don't see them taking a captain away from Cam Hayward and TJ Watt because they're both still there and they were both defensive captains last year.
Yeah,
so
I don't see that happening.
Yeah, so you think they'll add another Watt?
Yes, there could be 2 Watts. Yes.
So, all right, that's not my number 1. I didn't put him on my list.
Okay, good.
Shockingly, I thought about it, and the reason I didn't is because a couple reasons I didn't put some other people on the list, and that was his unavailability last year. That was why. That I'm like, if he'd had a full year of doing that, I could maybe see it. And honestly, I'm still not going to be shocked. I should have put him on my list, but I didn't. I went with number 1 because I thought number 1 was obvious because I think my number 1 is who it's going to be. And you should know because you have him on your list because he's been there before.
Correct.
To me, if you're going to have a special teams captain for next year, it's Chris Boswell. That's who it is. That's just what I think. That's my number 1. So I went Justin Lane, Benny Snell Jr., Ray McLeod, Cassius Marsh, and Chris Boswell. I'm almost to a point that if it's not Boswell, I don't know that they'll have one. But then I started to second guess it because, what happened the last time he was captain. But yeah, that was it. So that's my list.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Again, I'd be interested to see if Boswell would want to do it.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then if he does it and has another rough year kicking, do we just say, okay, we're keeping Boswell, but he's never allowed to be special teams captain again?
Yeah. That would be it. That would definitely be one of those situations again. So
for Brian Brown says, for Jeff's sake, I hope it's not Jordan.
Okay. So now I want to throw a couple things out there. Okay. There were some people that I thought and then instantly had to dismiss. You know who almost made my list, though? Seriously?
Who's that?
Cameron Canaday. Almost threw him out there as the long snapper. Thought about it. Yes. Yeah. I'm not saying Jordan Berry because I don't think he's going to be the punter. I'm not saying big press because you're not going to have a rookie captain, in my opinion.
Correct.
It's just not going to happen. I just don't see it. I don't know that it's ever happened, and I don't know why it would ever happen. I don't know if it's a rule with the Steelers. It very well could be, but I didn't go looking into that. It's not going to be. For the same reason, that's why I said I didn't think it was going to be someone like a Quincy Roche, who I think will play a lot of special team snaps this year, but he's not going to be the captain. Here's one. I'm going to ask you this question because I someone that I thought about, but I'm like, I'm not going to do it. But it's my answer to this question for you. Jordan Dangerfield's gone.
Yes.
Who do you think, and they talk about this as being really important, and it is, who do you think is going to be the up man on the punt team? That is the guy that calls the formation, calls in guys, sets them if they have to come in to block rather than be out wide and everything else. You know, if there's going to be a fake, he's going to call it or things like that. Who do you think is going to fill that role? Who is mainly one of your most important special teamers other than your specialists for the Steelers this year?
You know what? I was trying to think about that.
I have an idea.
Trying to make this list, and I wasn't sure if I had anybody picked out for that.
I do. And it's someone that I thought about, and I'm like, I just don't see someone being a captain their first year in Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be Miles Kilbrew, who they signed from the Lions. That's who I think is going to be the up man. I think he was basically, in my opinion, he was brought in the Jordan Dangerfield role. He is a special teams ace, but they could probably use him more on defense. That's just what I think. I think that's a guy that could be there and do that. Cree thinks it's going to be Derek Watt, that he could be the guy as the up man. So if that's the case, then I could very well see Watt being the special teams captain. I dismissed him right away just because I thought, he's had 1 year in Pittsburgh and he missed a lot of time there. And, which is a shame because part of the reason I said, hey, I'm okay with the Steelers signing him because his best abilities is availability because he had never missed a game in his career. And then he comes to Pittsburgh and misses 4 games last year. So
it's your fault.
Yeah, I guess that's it. And honestly, that was probably why he was brought in place of Roosevelt Nix, because of thinking he was going to be more available. So if he's not available this year, this will be his last year in Pittsburgh. Or honestly, because he'll be going into the last year of his deal. So, but I'm hoping he can really be a good special teams guy. Anything else you want to say about this subject here, Rich?
You know what? There was another person out there I actually considered that played, 40% of the snaps.
Okay.
And you and I, we love this guy.
40% of the snaps. I'm looking. Okay. I'm ready. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
He's one of mine and Kyle's favorites.
Okay.
And that would be Henry Mondale.
I don't know if he's going to make the team. I mean, he brings a lot on special teams, so he does. But there is so much that they have on the defensive line. See, another guy that played a lot of snaps is someone like Marcus Allen.
Yes.
So that one's tough. I mean, James Pierre played a lot of special team snaps last year, but if he's playing more at corner, whether in sub package or not, he might not have as many snaps. I don't know. Here's someone that I thought about, but I didn't say it because he didn't have very many special team snaps last year, but he might end up with more this year. Do you think because of the return of one Devin Bush and the emergence of one Robert Spillane, that one Vinicio, I think is how is Williams, Vinny Vici, do you think he might be playing more special team snaps? Because I think if that's the plan, he could be your special teams captain. I just don't know that that's going to be the plan.
I don't know if that's going to be the plan or not.
And I thought about him, and I was going to have him high because I'm like, he would be a great special teams captain if they're going to relegate him to playing a lot of special teams. And I don't know that they're going to do that. So, yeah. And then there's right here, like Chris says in the live chat, and I would be okay with this. He says, I want Jordan Dangerfield back. Just what he gave. I'm confession. I finally deleted it a few weeks ago. I wrote 2 articles before the start of the league year in March to have already written. So all we had to do was throw in a little bit of data, slap in a tweet, hit publish, and we get it out there quick of players that the Steelers were going to sign for the 2021 season. One of those articles was published. It was Zach Banner. The other one I had to delete because it was Jordan Dangerfield. I thought for sure he was one of those guys that they were going to bring back veteran minimum, wouldn't even really be counting, where they'd get the break towards the salary cap if they sign him to a 1-year deal, where even though he's making $990,000, he's only counting $850. That's that veteran salary benefit is what that's called. But then they signed Miles Killebrew, and that kind of right there just told we talked about it on staff, even with at BTSC, and we're like, I think the Killebrew kind of nixed the whole Jordan Dangerfield return. So interesting. So that's just one of those things. A lot of people are giving some comments. This is the first I've really looked at the live chat that much. But hey, Rich, do you want to take a few minutes to take some questions, or do you want to say something else?
I will mention Andrew Wilbar put up there, asked about Antoine Brooks, and how much he played. He only played 2% of the special team snaps last year.
Well, he didn't play very many games. Remember, he didn't even make the team. He was in the practice squad.
Correct.
He did make some appearances. We'll see what he has to do this year.
Right now, I would expect those numbers for him to pick up. I don't know if they're going to pick up to 40+% or not, but we'll see.
I don't know. We'll see. We're going to take about 5 minutes of questions here. I just put it out there in the live chat. If someone has a question, if you want to make sure yours is asked, you can use the super chat feature. Just drop whatever amount in there and put your question. Don't feel like you need to do it. We're not here soliciting donations. We're okay. Rich says to pay Kyle. Okay.
Pay Kyle.
So we'll just see if you guys have any questions for the show. We'll take a few before we get to our big question at the end, just because it's nice to be back and spending time with you all. So I didn't give you guys. Okay. Cree asked a good question. He says, has the league decided on how many players of the practice squad? There's not been anything officially announced. But I did write the story that both coaches and players want 16 players again this year. And it looks like it's going to happen, but the owners have to agree. That is going to cut into your salary cap because those players do count towards the salary cap. So, but as of right now, it's officially 12. I think pretty soon we're going to get something official that it's 16. So, then Steelers Pittsburgh. Oh, wait, I skipped one. Brian Brown says Williams or Spillane. Who starts? Rich?
My guess would be Williams starts, but Spillane gets more snaps.
Okay. That would not. That's a good answer. That's a good Dave answer. That's a good Dave answer. But it's not always who starts to finish. Yeah. But no, I think I wouldn't be surprised if it is Spillane, because remember the Steelers released Vince Williams, then they brought him back on a minimum deal. So he's there to add to that group, but he doesn't have to be the guy. They kind of already tipped their hand there. Steelers Pittsburgh wants to know how many drumfish did you catch, Rich?
Zero
Yep.
drums were caught.
It was
fishing was not the hottest last week. I managed a few Spanish mackerel and some bluefish, and actually a guy that I spent some time fishing with down there did catch a king mackerel off the pier. That was pretty cool. So.
And the day that my son came out early in the morning is when it could actually catch spots off the bottom, and he was able to catch some fish, which was nice.
Okay. It was nice for the kids to be out there and catch some of those.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know what to say. This one says Steelers H412 says, will you guys stream the Hall of Fame game? I don't know if you're talking about like come on and talk during that. We treat the preseason like we do the regular season. We should have a post-game show. We should have basically everything that you would normally get from us here behind the steel curtain. But I don't want to speak for that because I am not the podcast producer. So I will yield that to one Brian Anthony Davis. So Cheeseball asked how vacation was. And
it was a good vacation.
Yep. Here, Mason Quellhorst, I might have said that right, says, will Loudermilk make the team or will he be on the practice squad? I think he's got to make it. I mean, yeah, he was a 5th-round pick, but really he's a 4th-round pick because that's what they had to give up to get him. I don't see any way you make that trade and to draft that player to then give him the chance to be picked up by somebody else. What do you think?
You know what? I kind of agree with that. I'm going to be tough to sneak him down on there, and even if you do, there's a good chance he gets poached.
Yeah. So I don't see that. I see somebody. You're more likely to get like a Mondu down there. Although I could see, I had some bold predictions that if the Steelers released a defensive lineman last year, once they brought him up, that they would not make it back to the practice squad. So I have honestly. Here we go. Bold prediction for 2021. The Steelers will have a defensive tackle or defensive lineman that ends up on another team to start the 2021 regular season. Whether they end up having to trade one because they have too many, or whether they can't keep them all and one gets picked up and they can't get to the practice squad. That's my prediction. Okay? Sound good?
Got it. It sounds good.
Clarence wants to know who's going to be the number 2 quarterback. You want to say it in the count of 3?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Mason Rudolph. Yeah, that's what it's going to be. Yeah. I mean, Haskins, if he can get the number 3 job, that just allows him to develop. I don't see them trying to get him up to number 2 at all. Okay. Portno wants to know if the Steelers offensive line finishes in the top 28, should Adrian Clem get coach of the year? In other words, they have pretty low expectations for the Steelers line. A lot of potential, but like Jeff Hartman says, potential just means you haven't proved anything, right?
Yep. That's right.
All right. Brian wants to know, Snell or McFarland, which one's the number 2? RB.
Snell.
That's what I'm going to say based on the fact that Snell played all 16 games last year. McFarland was inactive for a bunch of them. So,
yep.
Okay. Let's see if we get one more. Brian wants to know this. The Steelers have a ton of receivers. Do you think any unknown pass catchers can make the team? Rich.
I really doubt it. Not impossible, but chances are probably well under 10%.
The only way it's going to happen is if a receiver blows the doors off of everyone in the preseason. And then the Steelers decide to make a cut somewhere else and keep 6, because it's not unheard of for them to keep 6 wide receivers.
Yep.
That's the only way I see that happening, is seeing them just be so fantastic in the preseason.
There is another way, but I'm not talking about it. So
that's true too. We're not going to. Nope, we're not talking about that. That's for sure. Okay. So but what I see is some of these young receivers, I could see them keeping possibly as many as 3 on the practice squad. If that's what they want to do, if that's what they think is best to do. So that's my answer for that one. So I think it would be really tough for them, but bottom line is he'd have to convince the Steelers to keep an extra wide receiver. With that, Rich, did you have a big question tonight, or should I just do the obvious question?
Do the obvious question.
Okay, so here's the obvious question. I'm typing it in now. If I could actually spell. The problem is my laptop's raised up for my camera to be at the right level. So I'm trying to reach up and I'm not regularly on the desk. So bottom line is you only get one choice. Who is the Steelers special teams captain for 2021? The question is now in the live chat. You may answer. Rich's number one was Derek Watt. My number one was Chris Boswell. So, and your answer can be nobody, like you had for number 5.
Correct.
Which I think would work. So if you have your answer, okay. Andrew Wilbar says Balaj. I still don't even have him on my 53 until he shows something. And really, you think the Steelers are going to have someone who's in their first season with Pittsburgh as a captain? That's just not how they do it. Brian Brown says Watt. I'm assuming he means Derek. Steelers Pittsburgh says Miles Killebrew. I would agree with that as well, except for what I just said about Balaj. That's hard for someone to be the team captain their first year.
Yep.
There. Cheeseball 10 says he agrees with Boswell. George Teston says Watt. Kriakis says Chase. I don't think so. Did he even play any special teams?
Yes, he did. Yes, he
played
did.
27% of the special team snaps.
He played some gunner.
Yeah.
I expect though that number to go down this year, not up.
I do as well. That's what happens when you just like Alex Highsmith.
Yes.
Okay. Kathy, she says Derek Watt. Hi, Kathy.
What?
I haven't seen you in there yet. Okay. Clarence Washington also says Watt. Mason says Balaj. Seth Bell isn't the first one to say. He's the first one to say it, but he says Buddy Johnson. Joseph Brown says Buddy Johnson. Buddy Johnson, honestly, he might be my bet for Steelers special teams captain in 2023.
Yeah.
Give him a couple of years with the Steelers. I think he's going to play a lot of special teams this year. But once again, I don't see the Steelers having a rookie be a team captain. Okay. Richard Adamson says Boswell. Garrett Slingerland says Danny Smith, a.k.a. no one. In other words, there's going to be one. Paul says none. Okay. Portner says a lot of milk. Like, I don't even see that guy playing special teams. Porter just wanted to put that name out there. Brian Blackstock says Derek Watt. The artist formerly known as Solarverse, Bully Mob Kennel. He says Benny Snell Jr. Okay, that's a good one. Okay. Chris Pugh, is that Pugh? I guess so. He says Watt. He says a happy Derek Watt will lead to a happy TJ Watt. Okay. And then some people are saying exactly what I'm saying. A rookie captain. Yeah. These are players that I could see maybe down the road. I don't know that the Steelers have ever done.
They would be
a rookie, or
some of those rookies have the opportunity to be impactful special teams players, but we're talking about the special teams captain going into the year. I don't see a rookie doing that.
Because they're going to be voted on before they play a game.
Correct.
So it's not something like you have a floating captain where that player is going to go out. And I mean, they've done that in the past. The Steelers did that. What was the year again? Was it 2017 where they only had 2 captains?
Yes, I believe so.
They floated captains week to week. They didn't always announce them. They had special teams captains, just it wasn't the same one for the whole season. Tyler Matakevich was the special teams captain a decent number of times, I think, in 2017. So, and that was only his second season. He was 2016, right? I think. So that's the thing that I think they could do what you said, where it's nobody, and they float it week to week. Okay. Like Andrew says, captain by committee. They kind of did. And that's not uncommon. back when I played back in high school, we actually did that where we had some like 2 captains every week and 2 captains that rotated. We did that when I coached. Yeah.
Dude, when you were in high school, you wore leather helmets.
Well, that's true. I'm not that old. They wore leather helmets when I was in high school. They wore dinosaur skulls when you were in high school. Yeah, that was weak. I have to admit.
That was pretty weak.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do this year. Go ahead. What you were saying?
I was going to say if Kyle was still out there, he'd help you get me good, but that was pretty weak. So
that was pretty
never
weak.
mind.
That was pretty weak.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I still say if this was something you could place a wager on, I'm putting my money on Chris Boswell. Honestly, that's why he was my number 1. He's been the captain before. He's been with the team long. I mean, you do realize he's one of the oldest players on the Steelers.
Yes.
Did you know that?
If you're asking me to put money on my picks, I'm probably putting I'm like you. I'd put money on Boz. I'd put money on Derek Watt. I'd put money on nobody.
This is a good. We're gonna.
Those would be my top. Those would be my top 3 bets. Would be those bets.
This is.
To place money on.
I'm going to do a little trivia with you there, bro. Okay, you ready? You ready?
Lay it on me.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I thought it was 7. On the Steelers' current 90-man roster, there are 7 players 30 years old or older. Can you name them?
There are 7.
7.
Ben Roethlisberger.
7 is one of them. Yes, Ben Roethlisberger.
Tyson Alualu.
He's the second oldest at 34. Ben is 39.
Cameron Hayward.
Cam Hayward is one of the next 2 who is at 32.
Cassius Marsh.
He's 29.
Okay. I knew
that's
he was
right.
going to be close.
That's strike 1. You get 3 strikes.
Okay. Boswell
was 30.
That gets me to 4, right?
That is 4. You got 3 left.
Oh, goodness. Sorry, I was looking down that 90-man roster today.
3 left. I'm not looking at the live chat right now because I'm on a different
No, I'm not either. I
So
actually clicked off of it so I wouldn't think
to
look over there. I don't know. I'll go out on a limb. Jordan Berry.
He's 30.
Nice.
Yes, you got 2 left.
Oh, gosh.
I'll give you a little bit of a hint.
Joe Hayden.
Joe Hayden is the other one who's 32, along with Cam Hayward. You've got 1 more.
Now I'm kind of going position by position here.
And he is one of only 3 Steelers who are over 30 who was drafted by the Steelers. Because Barry wasn't, Boswell wasn't, Hayden wasn't, Alualu wasn't. So the 3 that were drafted by the Steelers are Roethlisberger, Cameron Hayward, and
Vinny Vici?
Vinny Vici. That's number 7.
All right.
Very good.
Hey, that's actually a good question that you can get, but man, you got to really sit and think about it.
You got to think about it. So yeah, believe it or not, Boswell was one of the over 30 club. And I think they'll be down to 6 because I don't think Jordan Berry is going to win the job. So that's why I say, based on age, special teams wise, it could be one Chris Boswell. So, Rich, any final thoughts before we call it a show here?
Oh, no, it was just nice to be back. Vacation is fun, but it's nice to be back.
It's nice to be back. I really wish we could have done the show from down there. We just couldn't.
I did too. That would have been kind of fun in some ways, but
yeah,
it was just not happening.
Yes, even removed from the chaos that was, 21 people in a house, but 23 of us in all on vacation, but we let our parents stay in an apartment next to the house so they don't go crazy. But it is really nice to be back. So, quick question. You already said it, but I'm making sure you didn't change your mind. You heading up to Heinz Field for any training camp?
No.
Free tickets. They're still available. Their tickets are free. You can get them through Ticketmaster.
No, because if I go up there for that, we're going to Heinz Field for practice.
We're talking
about practice, not a game.
Yeah.
Not a game. We're talking about practice. Now,
so
if it would have been in Latrobe, yes, I was going. That was going to be part 2 of seeing if anybody could find Kyle and I, because Kyle was going to go too. We were going to put the shirts up. There you go.
There was something interesting about the social experiment that I had to bring it to my brother. We were out there on the beach, and I turned and look. I'm like, dude, we don't have anything Steelers up. I should have taken my flags or something like that. I then hung up my beach towel and stuff like that, because there was some people that came through with Steelers apparel on, came around the fishing pier, hung around for a while, and then walked away. I'm like, if it's someone that listens in audio form, they wouldn't know what we look like. So,
which is lucky for them.
Yes, lucky for them. You're better off listening in audio form rather than have to look at us. But this was more or less to get it out there as a test run. We didn't expect any results on this one, but I did talk to people that read the website, so that was always fun whenever we go on vacation and whatnot.
Well, you know what my next one will be then. You know where the next place I'll have to wear it and see.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, because we wanted to do training camp, but I don't know that I'm going to make it up to training camp. I didn't get tickets. My biggest thing is it's hot at 1:30 in the afternoon in August in Pittsburgh. And it's bad enough going to a 7:30 p.m. preseason game because it's hot up there. But if you're heading there, I hope you all do it. We're trying to see if other people are going to be around. I hope you all connect with each other in the live chat, or if you're one of those that are going, and see if people can meet up. But also make sure you're listening. Last Friday on Jeff Hartman's Let's Ride, he had Brian Anthony Davis on there, and he talked about the extra shows we're going to be adding to the platform. That was really important. It's not like we're throwing out a ton of extra shows, and we're not doing any more to the YouTube shows. We will be coming at them with the same thing. And in season, the only thing that's going to change is instead of Tales from 2 a.m., we'll have a post-game show. That's the biggest difference there. But make sure you're checking out all the YouTube shows. Make sure you're checking out all the audio-only shows. And make sure you're checking out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. We are inching closer to training camp, to where we can talk about this year's team and not base it off of last year's results. What do you think of that, Rich?
I can't wait.